Have you ever felt like a fake, a fraud, a no good fuddy-duddy phony? Then guess what? You aren't alone. Around 70% of grown adults have had that feeling at least once in their grown-ass lives. This is called imposter syndrome. And trying to overcome this feeling sometimes feels like you are trying to take out a high-value target with nothing but a piano wire, a pistol, and a rubber duck. Luckily for you and I, there's a video game that teaches us everything we need to know regarding what it takes to infiltrate and assassinate this feeling. Today, in M-rated games I'd let my kids play, we're talking about the video game series Hitman and why it's a game series that I would probably let my 4 young kids play. The silly, sadistic sandbox that is this series has been helping us play pretend for well over a decade now, and in that time it has taught me many ways to handle the feeling of being a fake in a crowd. And if you're watching this video, I will share them with you too. Unfortunately, I have no more alliterations available to alleviate your anticipation, so without further ado, let's begin. Pretty much all of my info today is coming from researcher Dr. Valerie Young, who also helped co-found the Imposter Syndrome Institute. Through her studies, she has categorized her findings into 5 different subgroups: the perfectionist, the superhero, the natural genius, the soloist, and the expert. Dr. Young believes that according to her research that being able to identify these bad habits and patterns will help you address the things that make you feel like an imposter. So we'll talk about the 5 different types of imposters, what lessons we can learn from Hitman for each one, and how we can apply these lessons to our normal, mundane, non-assassin lives. Assumedly. Because unfortunately, in real life you can't choke out your bills and then just stuff them in a locker. That's basically tax evasion, and when utilized properly, taxes can be a great way of reinvesting in your local infrastructure and communities. Stay woke. So first on our list we have the perfectionist, and it's exactly what it says on the tin. Anything short of perfect execution is considered a failure, and more often than not, these incredibly high bars are self-imposed, leading to a pretty brutal feedback loop when not caught early. If you have ever missed a ludicrous, self-defined mark on something, do you accuse yourself of not being ready or cut out for that thing? And then from there you just end up spending days dwelling and ruminating on it, then yeah, you might end up being a perfectionist. In the Hitman series, Agent 47 is known for his meticulous planning and flawless execution of missions.
Just wait and see. When you're done with this job, the contracts will be rolling in.
That sounds wonderful, Mr. Rangan. Can you look up a bit? Thank you.
However, even he experiences setbacks and must adapt to changing circumstances. Letting go of perfectionism and cultivating self-compassion within noticeable small growth is probably the easiest way to take that sort of drive and to cultivate it into something that is more mentally healthy. Just as how Agent 47 must sometimes improvise and accept that not every mission will go perfectly, it's essential to be kind to yourself and recognize that perfection is not always attainable. For this type, success is rarely actually satisfying because they believe that they could have been done even better, but that's neither productive nor healthy. Owning and celebrating your achievements is essential if you want to avoid burnout. You need to find contentment and cultivate that self-confidence. Learn to take your mistakes in stride and try to view them as a natural part of the process, because they are. In addition, try to push yourself to act before you're ready. Force yourself to start the project you've been planning for months. I mean, the truth is there is never going to be a perfect time and your work will never be 100% flawless. The sooner that you are able to accept that, the sooner that you can really start honing in your craft or skill or what have you. It doesn't have to be perfect, but man, you can really make that edge sharp, if you know what I'm saying. Next up, we have the superhero. Goldfinger was right when they released their iconic 1997 song, Superman. So here I am, doing everything I can, holding on to what I am, pretending I'm a Superman. Off topic, but it's really crazy how well the message in the song is aged, especially as a song about imposter syndrome. Go listen to it, then go find a PS1 and go play some Tony Hawk. The superhero loves to take on more than one responsibility, and they have difficulty saying no, and often work harder than their peers. In addition, the superhero often juggles many tasks at once, even to the point of overexhaustion. Chances are, if you're running in super mode, you're also a people pleaser. You strive to do good not only for yourself, but for others. You want to impress, and taking on that extra responsibility is always your idea. In Hitman, I think this can be exemplified by the newbie act of knocking out like 20 different dudes, so that way you have one of every disguise available to you for you to just be able to kind of instantly swap out of whenever you panic and get caught. But I mean, if you're worried about being a bartender and a tattoo artist and a scientist, on top of all your other regular duties, you're just going to end up in a situation where you're letting everyone down instead of just letting yourself down. And that's just basically a self-fulfilling prophecy that none of us want. Imposter workaholics are also typically addicted to the validation that comes from being able to do so much at once, not the actual work itself. If this feels like you, maybe start focusing on working on more internal validation of everything that you are able to do, and try to build upon that. No one should have more power than you personally do when it comes to validating how much you can do.
Wonderful. Yeah, I can see that. Hopefully that weird man will finally leave me alone. You're my hero.
I'm certain he won't bother you anymore.
Thank you.
But on the flip side, do learn to take constructive criticism very seriously and not personally. People who take the time to give you honest, constructive feedback are doing it because they want to help you grow, not keep you down. Like Agent 47, it's important to truly focus on the task at hand and to not spread yourself too thin, trying to do a whole bunch of side quests and side plots. For number 3, we have the natural genius. Dr. Young says that people with this competence type believe that they need to be a natural genius. Growing up in a world of Jimmy Neutrons, Dexter's Laboratories, and Malcolm's in the Middles, and Smart Guy, it's sometimes harder to remember that most of us aren't really as smart as they may seem online or in person. Me included. As such, they judge their competence based on ease and speed as opposed to their efforts. In other words, if they take a long time to master something, they feel shame. This is something that is normally attributed to gifted kid syndrome, but if you've ever avoided something because the thought of not being immediately good at it fills you with anxiety and a little bit of dread, you might be the Nat genotype. The natural genius genotype. Yes, I invented that. I will copyright it, trademark it. In the Hitman universe, Agent 47 is genetically enhanced, but he still has to rely on his training and his experience to succeed. When having that negative self-talk and saying that you are an imposter, you need to recognize that yes, that is actually the truth. Believe it or not, everybody had a day one on something. It's one of the hardest things for people to comprehend when they think about people who are at the top of their whatever, but everyone started out with a day one. Everyone had the first time that they picked up the ball, picked up the keyboard, picked up the ham. I don't know. Agent 47's expertise in so many just random things is not just natural talent, it is a result of hard work and dedication. While it is very hard at first, embrace the fact that challenges are just opportunities for growth. Accomplishing great things involves lifelong learning and skill building for everybody, even the most confident people. Rather than beating yourself up when you don't reach your impossibly high standards, identify specific changeable behaviors that you can improve on over time. I feel like one of the only ways to learn how to do something correctly is to learn how to not do it correctly. I guess basically just remember everyone started out with a day one.
Right. I have a friend who's into that sort of thing. Cosplay, assuming imaginary identities. He says it's very liberating. Mascot outfit takes him out of the stress of everyday life and work, you know?
Not really.
And now for number 4, the penultimate imposter, we have the soloist. Now, the soloist prefers to work alone, fearing that asking for help will expose their incompetence. And for most people, that is probably what they envision when they think of Agent 47. Not the incompetence, but I mean the soloist. While Agent 47 often works independently, he relies on his handler, Diana, for crucial information and support. It's okay to be independent, but not to the extent that you refuse assistance so that you can prove your worth. And I'm specifically talking to all of you Elden Ring players who get upset when people use summons and spirits. Go touch Grace and get off my maidens. I legitimately hate how the internet went from a place where you went to ask for help and help others to a place where you gatekeep and belittle newbies who are asking specifics for better understandings. This is another example of what I call childless behavior, where the only explanation for such weirdly selfish behavior is that you've never had to have anyone rely on you for anything to the point of you making legitimate sacrifices for others, aka childless behavior. So learn to be more assertive and practice emotional vulnerability. Just as Agent 47 trusts Diana, it's essential to communicate your needs and seek support when necessary. Recognizing that collaboration can lead to better results is a key step in overcoming imposter syndrome. And finally, we have the expert. Experts measure their competence based on what and how much they know or can do, believing that they will never know enough. They fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable.
So what's in this thing anyway, Doc?
Mostly floral extracts, hemlock, belladonna, aconite. It's designed to be fast and efficient.
Fast and efficient. I like that. Wait, belladonna? Isn't that poisonous?
Yes,
Should I be concerned?
I'm not.
It's true that there are always more to learn, but taken too far, the tendency to endlessly seek out more information can actually be a form of procrastination. This is doubly so in any type of creative endeavor. I have spent so much time trying to find the perfect setting, the perfect acoustics, the perfect green screen, and a bunch of other needless stuff before I realized that I would never start making content until I just started making content. And if I want to be able to do something outside of my wheelhouse, I start learning about it then, as opposed to just wasting a bunch of time doing a bunch of tutorials and hoarding all this information for some weird form of external validation felt internally. Whenever anyone above me gave me enough time to talk shop, I took it because I wanted to learn what they knew. And on the flip side, while I don't do mentoring, I am a parent, which is one part mentor, and in my never-ending quest to raise half-decent adults, I have realized that I know a lot more things than I gave myself credit for. I mean, I'm talking about homesteading, gardening, mechanics, engineering. I mean, being a broke homeowner with a 3D printer has given me the equivalent experience of an apprentice engineer. Not really, but I sure do feel smart when I fix something in my house. That is true. And one final note as we wrap up, one final sign to show you that your imposter syndrome is something to be embraced and not avoided. There is evidence to suggest that imposter syndrome correlates with overall success, and that those who don't probably aren't the real deal with guns of steel. As we stated, people with imposter syndrome tend to chase some version of perfection, which means that they are putting in the work to do so. And if that's you, then you drop this crown. Now, to the opposite effect, those who don't feel imposter syndrome and have obscenely high levels of self-confidence could basically be living in their own version of the Dunning-Kruger effect, in which people with limited competence in a particular domain overestimate their abilities. Or simply put, too dumb to see how dumb they are.
Weak will be purged, and the strongest will thrive, free to live as they see fit. They'll make America great again!
What the hell are you talking about?
Just because you're a heart surgeon doesn't mean that you are cut out to run Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, of all things. And I have felt imposter syndrome for so many aspects of my life. I felt it when I had my first 2 kids. I felt it when I got my first job in tech. I felt it when I got my first job in gaming. I really felt it when I was axed from the gaming industry. Me, along with tens and thousands of other amazing people in the gaming industry right now, are having a really hard time feeling like our brief stint and the brief time that we had actually achieving our lifelong goals weren't more than just like a fluke. And in reality, we're just not good enough for this. I feel like an imposter every time a video that I make goes live and I don't instantly get like a more billion views within 2 seconds. Things that normal YouTubers that have about 2,000 subscribers get on the daily. But at the end of the day, always looking back on it with hindsight, it's been the journey that reminded me of my worth and validity of whatever space I felt fake in. Part of the first ideal is journey before destination, after all. Like, share, subscribe so I can make a Stormlight video. But yeah, the fact that I have Amazon and Turn 10 Studios on my resume is proof enough for me to know my worth. The fact that I have this healthily growing community of people who are literally into everything like I am is more than enough validation in my ability to make decent content. And finally, the fact that my wife and I have been together for almost 15 years, along with my awesome kiddos who are going to hopefully be amazing adults, that is more than enough validation for me as a man, husband, and father. The real imposters are the guys out there telling you that the only way that you can be happy is with a subservient woman and a Bugatti. In my opinion, there are certain levels of freedom in being able to admit that there is always a place that you can grow. And weirdly enough, a black comedy sandbox about finding the most creative way to remove someone from a game taught me that no matter what, I will be an imposter in any new space that I wander in. But instead of letting it be a moment of fear, anger, and resentment that leads to me just saying F it and going guns blazing, I'm learning to let it be a moment of excitement, anticipation, and learning. Like, how else am I supposed to get better at sniping in video games? Hi everyone, YouTube game Hitman NPC from the tutorial level here. I just wanted to say thank you very much for all the great feedback I've gotten in the Bones video. I will do a follow-up as requested because it is requested. I think that's one of my first requested videos, so that's really cool. We're about to hit 2,000, like really close, so I'm going to be very cocky and assume that we're going to be hitting 2,000 within the next couple days. And yeah, I really appreciate all the support. I really appreciate the fact that people are just really kind of liking my vibe because of the fact I'm not talking about a certain specific thing. And yeah, we'll see what happens from here. I'm sorry if you hear my kids arguing in the background, but also heads up, in a couple weeks we're going to be doing a road trip to go see some family, and I will see how much I can get preloaded before then, but I'm not making any promises. Yeah, other than that, I really appreciate you all giving me your time. I sincerely do, and we'll go from here. I got big plans, and I just need to make them come into fruition. So thank you again for your time, and check out one of my other videos if you haven't. And yeah, bye. Have a good day. I hope you're having a good summer too. I hope you guys are all doing all right. So yeah, I know it sucks out there, so I hope your day is a little bit better. All right, bye for reals now.